What you see in front of you now on the screen is the administrative perspective of the employee onboarding solution. An important thing to note is that this will be entirely customized for you from a branding perspective, of course. So you'll have a unique URL here at the top, including your business name. We'll build in your logo naturally. This is just Acme Company for the fictitious example of the sake of the demo. Your name will be here in the upper right-hand corner as well. So every user has their own personalized portal. So Gabriella is our admin user today. And while we are talking briefly on users, know that with this exact hire solution, you get unlimited users. We do not charge you on a per seat basis, so you can have as many people internally using the tool, taking to its full advantage for your team in terms of making everything more time efficient. To give you some good examples of that, we do have clients who would bring on board, of course, HR managers and other generalists in that field because that's very relevant to onboarding, but then also some people in, for example, IT who might have a role in onboarding. Maybe they need to order a desk chair or a laptop for every new hire. So if there's anybody in your company whatsoever who is applicable or relevant to the onboarding process that you use, they will be able to have a seat in this software, and there's no additional charge to just take full advantage of the unlimited user feature. Not everybody has to have access to everything. So you can have users with restricted access as well. So just keep that in mind. Typically, moving forward, it does make the most sense for me to just start out by showing you what it looks like when you've made a new hire. As an admin user, you do two quick and easy things to give that person access to the onboarding solution so that they can log in and complete their relevant tasks. So those steps look just like this. You come up where it says work with and click users. We're just adding a new user into your system now that we've added a new employee to your team. The first of two things you do is you fill out the standard fields of information. And we call these standard for a reason. As you can tell, these are things you'll know about someone you've hired. You know the date you hired them, their name, the job you hired them for. So you should be able to breeze through these fields with ease. That brings you over to the second and final thing you'll complete, which would be what we call flex field values. And before I explain to you what flex fields accomplish here in our system, just know that these four, with division, department, and so on, they are just examples. You're not limited to using these four. You can have more than four. We will build your flex field values on a custom basis as our client. That'll make more sense as I explain here what the flex fields do. They're going to accomplish two key things for your group. First, and really foremost, they make sure that every single new employee gets exactly what they should be getting in their virtual onboarding packet, so to speak, and that's going to be based on your exact criteria. So let's use pay type as an example. Maybe you hire both exempt and non-exempt employees. Odds are non-exempt employees would have different forms to fill out than exempt employees would have to fill out during onboarding. So if there's a difference in who needs to complete what during your onboarding process, we just want to make sure we reflect that difference with a flex field value, because this system will automatically assign the person the exact correct set of forms based on the values you input. The second thing that flex fields accomplish is they make sure that any necessary follow-up tasks on your end are assigned to the single correct person. So it's really robust functionality from that end of the spectrum as well. I can tell you really common follow-up tasks we see clients do would be I-9 approval, countersigning a document, or IT related tasks, such as getting this person set up with a set of keys for the office, for example. But they're completely custom. Whatever is applicable to you, we can accommodate in this system. Those are just some common examples, like I said. So quick recap, you just filled out the standard fields, you assign the flex field values, and at that point, you're wiping your hands clean as an admin user. You just come over and hit save. And by hitting save, that triggers an email going out to that new employee, inviting them to log in for the first time. So you've granted them access to your tool so that they can start onboarding themselves. I've opened up this new window. As you can see, we're switching gears here. The name in the upper right-hand corner now says Bridget. So Bridget will be our new hire that we're functioning as today for the demo. Our branding follows us over to the new employee's perspective of the solution, which is important. It's a nice warm welcome. When they log in for the first time, they're greeted professionally by your brand. They know they made it to the right place. There's no question about that. And this is the first page they are directed to the moment they log in for the first time. We ask them to complete their account details. The reason why your employees will do this first is because anything that lives here in the account will automatically parse onto the onboarding forms that they're asked to complete. So if you think about the I-9, for example, the I-9 requires every single one of these fields, and every single one of these fields for that matter. Because it all lives here in the account area of their profile, it can parse onto any form that would ask for this information. So we save your employees a lot of time from this perspective. We don't ask them to continually repeat themselves and typing the same information over and over and over again on forms. And what that does is that decreases your likelihood that these people are going to make unintentional mistakes on a form. Because if they're not asked to repeat themselves and we're saving them time, the odds are just less likely that they're going to make a mistake. And think about, again, coming back to the example of the I-9. I mean, we all know if we're to be audited, it's $1,000 per mistake per form in that instance. And so that's fearful for everybody, of course. We've been very successful in safeguarding our clients from those errors because of the way this parking mechanism in our tool works. So we love the parsing detail here. Again, it's just this main information, their contact detail. You have the option to also gather emergency contacts if you would like. There's no additional charge to use this. We can even build in some other custom fields. A lot of our clients would want to gather EEO information, for example, or affirmative action reporting information here, such as gender or ethnicity. If that's something you would like to gather, we can always build in those fields too. There would be no charge to do so. And then here they can change their password if they ever want or need to. So now we're going to click into Bridget's home screen where she'll see this welcome message. This is typically just instructional in nature to kind of hold the hand of the employee who maybe is a little bit less tech savvy than average and wants to be reminded as to how they will utilize this platform, what these colors mean, and so on and so forth. But what I want you to know is this welcome message is entirely customizable, so you can really make it your own. I'm going to go ahead and click Do Not Display so that we can move forward. And now we just see clearly the employee dashboard. So this is Bridget's profile, dashboard, whatever you'd like to call it. I want to walk you through first what we see just in terms of simple aesthetics here. Bridget has a pie chart, and just below the chart is a list. And both of these items are titled My Incomplete Tasks. They are the same thing. They are just showing her exactly what she needs to complete in order to be done with your onboarding process. The reason why we show them in the two different fashions with the pie chart and the list view options is simply to accommodate personal preferences as best we possibly can. We know that each individual is different. So if she's more visual, she might just use the pie chart and completely ignore the list. And that would work just fine for her. But we do find it really important to give your employees the option there, especially when it comes to software. People have different preferences and we really need it to be user-friendly. If it's not, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? So we make sure that we give your employees options as to how they personally prefer to work through items. Now the colors that we see with green, yellow, and red, the colors are in direct relationship to the due date of each item that has been assigned to Bridget. So green is a good color. If we look at these green due dates, it's just not coming due anytime too soon. You can see we're 2, 3, 4 days out on these green items. So we like green. Anything in yellow, on the other hand, if I actually click this yellow pie chart segment, it will automatically weed out the yellow tasks. Yellow means it's due today or tomorrow. That's why we call them attention tasks. They're coming due very soon. We want them to get that person's attention so that they come in and complete those tasks before they would turn red, which I'm sure you've already come to on your own. Red means overdue. So with these red items, the due dates have already come and gone, as you can see. Something I'd like to be very clear on that our clients do appreciate quite a bit from us is that we police the due dates for you as our client. And what that means specifically is anytime you have a user with either a yellow or a red task that day, they're getting an automatic email reminder from us. And they will continue to get one email reminder per day, every day that they have anything that's yellow or red, just to help them stay on top of those due dates. People do appreciate that, especially if you onboard more than one person at once, for example. That can get to be a lot of onboarding tasks that you might feel the weight of that on your shoulders of, okay, we have 5 new employees, 50 tasks total. I need to go in and make sure that everybody is getting reminders and staying on top of their due dates. It just takes the pressure off of you, and we take that on ourselves, and we're happy to do that because, again, it just makes everything a little bit more streamlined for our clients, and that's the point of this service. Now, we have 3 different types of items that can be included in a virtual onboarding packet here. We break it down into categories called task, document, and form. And I'll just show you a quick example of each. A task is the simplest type. It will be anything that does not require a signature. So it could be very simple and instructional like this, confirm your department meet and greet. It could be a graphic or an image of some kind. It could even be a video. A lot of our clients like to give a welcome message from maybe the president or the CEO of the company, just to kind of roll out the red carpet for your new employees and make them feel really welcome and excited about starting their new job. So however you'd like to utilize tasks, just know it's anything that does not require a signature. The employee cannot mark a task as complete without confirming first. So there's a great level of accountability there. And the moment I hit mark as complete, it automatically brings me right back here to my dashboard where everything has updated in real time. So that task is no longer on my list or my pie chart. It shows up here under recently completed, so I can keep track of what I've done that day, which is great. Tasks are always free, okay? So there's never a charge associated with tasks. The second type of item was a document. We'll look at this social media policy as our example of a document here, but know that the definition of a document in this platform is anything that is read and sign. If you're just asking for a signature, it's going to qualify as a document. Any policy, employee handbook acknowledgement, maybe a consent to a drug screen, for example, all of that would be a document. Documents, as you can see, will populate in a clean PDF format for the employee. They can seamlessly scroll through and read at their leisure. And when they're ready to sign, you see it clearly states sign document. We'll click there. We're prompted to enter our system password acting as our signature. So it's a highly secure solution. And the moment I hit sign, once again, it's just going to automatically bring me right back to my dashboard. I find that important to emphasize because coming back to this concept that we're very focused on it being time efficient and user friendly for your new employees during this onboarding experience, we're always rerouting them directly back to where they need to be just to continue moving forward and making progress here. They don't have to click around or open up a new tab or click back and forth with a new window. We just make it very streamlined. I want to show you what the signature looks like on the final version of a document. So let's come up to the area called a task archive. Tasks do archive for your employees, so they can always come in and see what they've historically completed, and they can view those items again if they wanted to brush up on that information. So let's pull up the policy we just signed off on. Here it is. And when I scroll to the bottom, what you'll notice is the signature appends to the final page of the document, and it includes the time and date stamp as well as the IP address. So you're able to gather and store all of this data securely and electronically here in our software. Documents, just like tasks, are always free. Anything that just requires a signature will have no charge whatsoever associated with it. The third and final type of item is a form. A form is simply more complex because it will have a greater call to action on it, more than just a signature. So if they needed to fill in the blank or check a box or pick something from a drop-down menu, for example, that would qualify it as a form. A classic form example would be the I-9 or any other government form. Keep in mind, all government forms, as well as our direct deposit form, is included in your standard implementation of the tool. Any other forms outside of that realm are $200 per form for a one-time build fee. Our developer does have to build in your custom forms so that those areas that require action electronically can actually be done in this platform. So if they needed to fill in the blank, we build the form so that there is a fillable field that the employee can actually type into. Only forms outside of government forms and a direct deposit form will have a $200 charge associated. And again, it's just the one-time build fee. So we can take a look at that if we get to the point with your group that you'd like an exact quote on your forms. I'll go ahead and show you the I-9 as the example of the form. This is definitely the area that we get the most positive feedback on, the most excitement on from clients, because I do think this just tends to be a pain point, right, for most groups. And we've touched on why. It's just lengthy, it's complex. We know we're fined like crazy if there's a mistake. And we all concern ourselves with that. So what you're going to notice is when Bridget opens up the I-9, she's only asked for a couple of fields of information. All of the other info that the I-9 requires, this platform already knew about Bridget from her account information, and it was parsed onto the I-9. So she's only left with these couple of fields. So you can see how we're really, really safeguarding you from those mistakes being made. We further safeguard from error by not allowing the employee to input information into the fields until they take the necessary action that's been outlined to them in the instructions here. So if she says, okay, I do have a maiden name, let me check the box, that will open up to her, but not until then. And then likewise down below, if she says, for example, she is a citizen of the US, the system just knows to keep the following fields off limits to her because if she's a citizen, she doesn't have something like an alien registration number, for example. So why even give her the option to make an error there? We can save it and come back later if we need to. We cannot sign a form without previewing it first. We do require the preview of forms. We just think the more sets of eyes on something like this, the better. So when we preview it, we'll see the I-9 in its full identity, the way we all recognize it in today. But notice she didn't have to lift a finger. All of this parsed electronically and appropriately from this software. So when we close out from the preview, it'll acknowledge we previewed and now we can sign it. So we would just type in our system password again, just like we signed a document. The nice thing about something like the I-9 is in this platform, the moment a new hire signs the I-9, an electronic task is automatically reassigned to your internal employee, the single correct person that needs to come in and approve that I-9 signature. So that in real time would happen on the internal perspective of this solution, which is something our clients get very excited about because it really just streamlines that whole process for you. So that wrapped up the new hires perspective. You can see we walked through how they worked through all of their tasks, what the colors meant, and just saw overall how user-friendly that process was. I am now back on the administrative page just to spend a few final minutes showing you some features and functionality that is unique to an admin user. So remember, Gabriella was our admin user. We're back here on that portal. And the first thing I want to point out to you about your admin privileges here is that you have a second pie chart. Now, your first pie chart goes right along with your list for your own tasks. So maybe you need to activate a new hire, countersign a couple of things. This will look different on a per employee basis, of course, and it'll be completely custom. But your second chart shows you your umbrella overview of how your new employees are progressing with their onboarding tasks. So you can click into any one of these segments and see, for example, exactly who has what overdue. So you could scroll through and see by name who is missing what item, for example. You could also sort by description. So if you're looking for something in particular, like you need a voided check no later than the end of this week, come in and find that description and just see who still has not yet turned that in. So very easy to access this information. You can also drill down by individual user. Let's say we wanted to check on our newest hire, Bridget. This is how her detail will populate to you. You see a full list of everything she still has to complete for onboarding, the items she has already completed, her contact detail, and then the area called a document locker. Now, this is where you can upload anything that you gather externally for whatever reason. So maybe it's the image of the voided check, maybe it's proof of ID for the I-9. You can upload that to securely store it. There's no limit to the number of items you can upload in a locker, which makes it really convenient. Our clients will continue to use it as an actual storage solution. We have two optional integrations. We have an integration with E-Verify. When I send over pricing to you, I can send you pricing both with and without E-Verify. The E-Verify integration is very convenient because it eliminates your need to go to the federal website. You just click a button inside this solution, which sends the employee off to E-Verify, and then the E-Verify results come back in and feed automatically into this platform. So it completely automates that process. The second optional integration is for the Work Opportunity Tax Credit Program, the WOTC program. You may or may not already utilize that or be familiar with it. It's optional. There's no charge to use it. It's just included for our clients, and people are really loving it because it ends up just being found money for you when you get a return. So that's something we can discuss more if you would like to in detail following your preview of this demo. The very last thing I'd like to show you before we sign off would be your ability to export information out of this solution. May or may not be applicable, but I want you to know it's here for you should you need that functionality. You can always export any forms or documents out. If you needed to get everybody's I-9 out of the system, for example, because you're being audited, that tends to come up with clients. You could certainly do that. Everything will export very seamlessly into a clean PDF. You just pick who you want to run that export for. Then you pick what you want to include in the export. So you'll have a full list with all your documents and all of your forms to choose from. And then you'll run the export. And again, everything comes out in a PDF. You can also export data. So maybe you want to get everybody's emergency contacts out of this platform. It would export into a clean CSV file. So you have full rights to this information that you gather and store in our solution. If there's ever an instance that you need to get it out of the solution, I'm showing you this functionality simply to show you have the rights. You get to do with it what you will. If you need to take it out of the system, we make it very easy for you to do so. Thank you for your time today and reviewing the Exact Hire onboarding software solution. I look forward to your feedback.